I don't actually smoke. This is a lighter that I found about a week ago, or a couple of weeks ago, um, which I bought. I got this back in like 2009 because I thought it was like a cool thing to have. Um, and it doesn't work because it's actually kind of broken in the middle, like the wick. Um, there's no wick that comes to the end, and I damaged it and I couldn't pull the wick through for it to catch fire. Um, so yeah, it looks the part, but it doesn't do anything. But yeah, it's just a cool thing that I've been playing around with. I've actually had a cold over the last week, um, and I think I could be losing my voice even, so I may sound a little bit different than how I usually sound, which is fine, I guess. I've been holding off making another video for a while. I did actually make one about a week ago, but it didn't really come out the way that I wanted it to. Sometimes when you make videos for this sort of thing, you miss points, or you don't say what you want to say, or it doesn't really come out. Yeah, you need to plan a little bit. So I put it off to the side for a bit, but here I am. So basically, what's been happening? I suppose since my last video, and I'm going to try and be a little bit transparent with this to start with, because I'll explain what's happened and then I'll continue from there. So basically, since the last video, or then the last couple of videos that I did a while, I can't remember when, and like around that time, even kind of recently, maybe a few weeks ago. I don't know. I'm not very good at keeping track with time. That's probably going to make no sense to the people that have just listened to that. You see what I mean about planning? um, okay, so I didn't. Uh, Aside from at least the last couple of weeks, things hadn't been all that good for me, and I did mention that in the last couple of videos. And I was sort of saying that things were going all right, but there were some struggles or whatever, and that I was working to overcome them. But that it didn't really happen, and I was a little bit complacent, to be honest, with my personal development towards this sort of thing. And to be honest, after I filmed my last video, and after that, considering the things that I said against the behaviour that I was doing so close together, I actually felt really hypocritical, to be honest. And that's the hard thing when you film videos about this kind of thing, is the consistency. Because, to be honest, if I say one thing one day in a video, and then my behaviour changes the next day, or even later that day, for whatever reason, it's like a completely 180-degree turn, right? It's just as I said, I felt hypocritical that I was saying one thing, but my behaviour was not really hitting that mark as well just afterwards. It's just because, to be honest, April, which is when I filmed that last couple of videos, I think, I don't know, it's Friday night, I've been at work all week, excuse me, and I'm getting over a cold. Stop making excuses. April's not a very good, here we go. April's not a very good month for me, because of a few personal reasons. Just stuff has happened in April for me that's not all that good. The whole change in the seasons as we go into like winter as well can be a bit dreary, especially where I live. Just some stuff like that. It can get you down a bit. And it was actually around this time last year, where I really started to have some real struggles. Where this whole thing started to stem from. and the whole, you just get reminded of that, for better or for worse. So it's now May, so it's a new month. So basically, last month things weren't all that great for me, and things are a little bit up and down. I'll be doing great one day, and then the next day um, I'll be falling behind a bit, being a bit complacent, and then things like that. I was going around in circles a little bit, a couple of times at least. Um, but yeah, as I said, I felt hypocritical that I wasn't being consistent in my behaviour, matching against the words that I was speaking. Not to say that I was lying in what I said, but um, in that I wasn't very good at utilising my own advice, I guess, um, as I was moving forward. And that's bad, and that's I have to stop fiddling with this lighter, and that's something that I had to stop and I sort of had to reflect on, because when you become complacent in this sort of thing, you have to. It's kind of like changing gears in a car. It's like when you're driving up a hill, for instance, in a manual car. That's what we call them in Australia, manuals. When you manually change the gear. When you're driving up a hill in a manual car, and the say you're in fifth gear, and the car begins to slow, so you have to bring it back to fourth gear, and then to see if that gives you enough acceleration. And then again, if the car slows, you put it to third gear, and so forth until you get the right gear, so where you can create the acceleration to push you forward. However, so what I had to do, so I guess similar to that, I had to keep throwing my gears back a few notches in order to sort of match the acceleration that I was making, I guess, if that makes sense. I had to pull myself back a bit in order to push myself forward. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it's metaphorical. So, I had to do that from basically from my last video up till now. Now, where was I going with this? When you're struggling with an issue, whether it be Nofap related or not, whether it be a any problem that you're having that you have to fix. For me, I was looking at the issue and I was thinking, I should do something about this. And that's an attitude that we can have in Nofap. Sometimes when we're beginning to backslide a little bit, act a little bit complacent, whatever, we think, this isn't heading in the right direction. I should do something about this. And that's kind of the zone I was in. But I had to switch my thinking, and instead of thinking that I had to do something about it, I had to switch and I had to think, I'm going to do something about this. And that's a completely different way of thinking that you have to do something as opposed to actually doing it, actively doing it. It's a completely different realm. So that's what I've had to do since. I can't remember the date of my last video, but it's whenever that was up till now and ongoing, I hope, where I've really had to push myself. I've had to rein myself in a bit, force myself to focus a bit, and of course, allow myself. I suppose be considerate in that, understanding that I'm going to make mistakes, and there are times where I'm not going to get it right every time. But I have to be responsible for my decisions. My circumstances should not necessarily override the responsibility that I take. Like if I'm stressed or whatever, that doesn't automatically mean that I am no longer responsible for my decisions necessarily. or for me anyway. That's what I think. Excuse me. I don't think drinking this water is actually helping me at all. Or it is a little bit, maybe. So, yeah, I don't know. It was a strange time last month for me. It was a strange time. Things were a bit over the place. Not as bad as they have been, but yeah, the foundations were a little bit uneven for a while, but now they're pretty good, and well, I mean that, because it was more the month of April for me. So, where to from here? So basically, since then up till now, what I had to I'm not very good at explaining this, am I? I have to stop fiddling with this lighter. What I've had to do since then, as I mentioned in previous videos, a lot of my inclination, I suppose you could say, towards things like PMO-related activity, a lot of that draws from the fact that I can. It happens when I feel rejected from people. Most of the time, that's mainly the turning point. If I felt rejected from talking to people or wanting to talk to people, then that often puts me in a position to point my direction towards, or point my focus towards, other things that aren't all that good but are easy to obtain, if you can catch my drift. Which, is a wrong thing to do, of course. However, it doesn't make it the right thing to do. So, one of the main things I had to do was I had to stop talking to girls. And not like talking to them completely, not like not talking to them at all, but I mean like actively going out of my way to want to instigate conversations with them. Things like that, especially on the electronic medium of social media. I just had to cut that out and just stop it, because that when you talk to people on social media, some people are really reliable and want to talk, and some people don't really want to talk. That's fine, we're all different. But there are some people. I have some friends that I can only talk to electronically, or that I've only had the opportunity to talk to on an electronic means, such as over Facebook or whatever. Sometimes the only way you can actually communicate with people is via, methods like that. So what I had to do was I had to stop talking to girls to start with. It wasn't doing me any good, to be honest. I mean, like, I want to build good relationships with people, and sometimes you gotta build relationships through methods like, like social media, which really isn't the best way to build a relationship. But sometimes when you want to connect with someone or share ideas or whatever, and you don't have the opportunity to do that in person, sometimes like that's your option, to be able to do that, to talk to that person. It's not the best option, but sometimes it's your only option. So basically, I had to cut that out. I had to stop doing it. And it's worked to a degree. I suppose there's been maybe a couple of times, I guess, where I've gone out of my way to want to talk to someone, but not as much as I have been doing, and I think it's been really helpful, because for me, I'm the sort of person that likes to actually physically be in the same room as someone and talk to them, as opposed to talking to them electronically. Not that there's anything wrong with talking to someone electronically, but talking to someone in person, you can draw more out of them. You can interact with them better. and just talk about things better. So I like doing that, but I don't always have the opportunity to do that. So I have to do it electronically, which is like like talking to someone in real life is like up here, and then talking to someone electronically is down here. But if you don't have the option to do it up here, sometimes you got to go like a second grade of communication, I suppose. But what I also want to say is that with all that said of what I've just mentioned over the last however many minutes, once I edit this down, is that making videos about this kind of thing is very difficult. And if I hadn't been making videos, I wouldn't have felt so much like I was hypocritical to what I was doing as opposed to what I was saying. Because I know when I make a video about this kind of thing, and I'm delivering information like advice or testimony or whatever, it does make you more accountable in a way. In a weird way, it does, because you're basically telling anyone and everyone what's been happening, and sort of giving them some assistance in a way. Maybe this is going a bit off track. When we present ourselves to people, we a lot of the time unconsciously give this image of who we want this person to see us as, and that can go with talking to people normally, or it can go with making a video. And I'm really consciously trying to be as honest within the context of this video, because I'm a very private person. I don't really open myself up a lot, so this is pretty tricky. So there are some things that I give away easier than others, and when I make a video, especially like this, it's excuse me, it's still very difficult for me to get across everything, because there's part of me that doesn't want to give away everything. And I know I've already done that in this video, because we don't want to come across as being seen as vulnerable or insecure, or that we have issues or anything like that. We want to paint this picture of who we think we are, and that's just something we unconsciously do. So in conclusion, this isn't easy sometimes. Sometimes you're thrown all around the place. Sometimes it's hard to be honest even with yourself. But to put it personally, sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. Sorry, a lot of the times I don't even know what I'm doing. Even as a person, I don't know. Like, I just do what I think is the right thing to do, or what I feel is the right thing to do at that time. I have insecurities and I have doubts, just like everyone else. And my main issue is that I just don't like being misunderstood. That's one of the problems I have, as I've said before, I think. I'd like to do a follow-up to this, actually, but I just can't right now because I'm just not feeling very well and my voice is going. So I'll see you later.